Why am I not on there?
I'm trying to click all the buttons I can possibly hit, even though they don't make sense. Okay, here we go. Okay, how's that?
Yeah,
Testing
you're
one, two,
fine.
three.
I think it's just delayed. So when I'm talking, it takes like a few minutes for us to hear what you're saying, and then so talking back and
Yeah, I
forth
think
will
we
be
do
a
have
little bit.
a slow connect.
Yeah. Lovely technology.
That's correct. That'd be good.
All right, we'll start her up. Got the Nebraska Iowa MUFON meeting. This is for June 21st here, in our wonderful building with no water. So MUFON's mission is a scientific study of UFOs for the benefit of humanity. As the world's oldest and largest
I
UFO
understand.
investigative body, we aim to be the inquisitive mind seeking answers that to the most ancient question: Are we alone in the universe? No, that's what Fred says. So then we got our two aliens. Yeah, I see that already. Should I hit the light? You want the light? I can. That's right. Green. Yeah, these are some AI generated things Fred likes to throw on there. Father's Day. We just had Father's Day. Nebraska team. Myself is the state director, Kyle Finley. Fred Ziwi, we have in the audience here, assistant state director, ERT representative. Tamara, we got Tamara today as well as the chief investigator for Nebraska. John Barta is our other field investigator. Oh, he went to Alaska? Oh, I guess he's doing a cruise in Alaska. That's where I want to be without Ohio. We got Dave Perez and Dr. Jack Casher as our consultants. Not here today, but moving on. Iowa team, Greg Anderson. He's gone. He's on vacation. He's the state director for Iowa. We got Dave as the chief investigator. Beverly, Keen, and Marty, all field investigators for Iowa. Here we got the yearly totals of the yearly case count. You see that's kind of been going down, and I know MUFON's been talking a lot about that, how to get more cases to come in, so we have more stuff to look at. Here's by monthly case count. The blue is Iowa and the green is Nebraska. So we haven't had any cases for a while here. We had one case back in March, and Iowa's only had 2 cases in May and 4 in April. None in March for Iowa. Here's our attendance chart. I have that go all the way out to May, where we had 19 last month. I got our monthly stats, both Nebraska and Iowa at 100%. Well, we only got like a few cases, so I mean, it's pretty easy. I don't know. They move them around. It's something that it's just how they put them in there. And even, MUFON says they're not that important. So, MUFON news. Start off with from Dave McDonald. This is Godspeed, Earl Grey Anderson. Godspeed. I had to read that other one. Earl Grey Anderson was a beacon of light in the field of ufology, a dedicated investigator, and a compassionate mentor whose impact on the UFO research community will be felt for generations. As the state director of Southern California MUFON, Earl personally investigated over 1,000 UFO reports, bringing clarity and support to countless experiences. So on April 27th, 2025, at age 66, surrounded by his loving family, Earl passed away. So he did ERT as well, yeah. 1,000 cases, I mean, he's got a lot of experience. And an experiencer. He had his own case. He's one of the Greys, too. The Earl Greys. He's also a big fan of tea, is what I hear. But no, yeah, well, I heard some about him, not too much, but yeah, I know that everybody liked him a lot. So, oh, radio station. Oh, okay. All right, we'll do investor case review. This one from Beverly Moore. I think we got Greg on the audio here. See if this plays.
Beverly Moore, case 142-334. Synopsis. On May 17, 2025 at 10:05 p.m. Central Daylight Time in Carroll, Iowa, a witness observed several separate fast-moving dim blue lights traveling in all different directions. There were at least 6 over a 3 to 5 minute period. The witness detailed, I saw several separate fast-moving blue, white, dim lights traveling in all different directions. There were at least 6 over a 3 to 5 minute period. There were planes in the sky at the time, and these objects were not planes. They were smaller and faster with no sound or blinking lights. They appeared from nowhere. I've seen this same phenomenon 2 other times in the past year. They've all just disappeared to nowhere or tonight. 2 times suddenly bright, brightly with a white, kind of a silver light that seemed to flash around in the circular motion once, and then it was completely gone. The first one that did this did so just across trajectories with the plane closely. The other one.
Sorry, it sounds like they can't hear on there. I'm gonna reshare this. That looks good. Oh, here we go. Hey, I think I'm the only one that can run this stuff. All right, we'll run this again. It probably didn't go on the recording either, since I didn't share sound.
Beverly Moore, case 142-334. Synopsis. On May 17, 2025 at 10:05 p.m. Central Daylight Time in Carroll, Iowa, a witness observed several separate fast-moving dim blue lights traveling in all different directions. There were at least 6 over a 3 to 5 minute period. The witness detail. I saw several separate fast-moving blue, white, dim lights traveling in all different directions. There were at least 6 over a 3 to 5 minute period. There were planes in the sky at the time, and these objects were not planes. They were smaller and faster with no sound or blinking lights. They appeared from nowhere. I've seen this same phenomenon 2 other times in the past year. They've all just disappeared to nowhere before tonight. 2 of tonight suddenly brightened greatly with a white and kind of a silver light that seemed to flash around in the circular motion once, and then it was completely gone. The first one that did this did so just as it crossed trajectories with the plane closely. The other one did it just when it got directly 90 degrees above us. Witness interview. Not applicable. I was unable to interview the witness in this case. Attempts to set up a phone interview via email were not answered. Investigator conclusions and summary. The witness stated in the initial sighting report that they observed several objects, dim blue-white objects, over a 3 to 5 minute period. There were planes in the sky at the time, and they appeared from nowhere. Using Flight Radar 24, I was able to find 2 aircraft in the location at the time of the sighting. One was a Southwest passenger jet traveling west to east from Denver to Milwaukee. The second was a Delta Airlines passenger jet flying south to northeast from Texas to Minnesota. Also using Stellarium Web, I observed Starlink 3308 in the area at the time of distance of 899.8 kilometers. I was unable to interview the witness in this case after several attempts to make contact. There were 3 people listed as witnesses. The following are the witnesses' observations made in their report. I saw several, again, she repeats that she saw several over that time, and they're dim blue over the 3 to 5 minute time, appearing out of nowhere. And then it says, as a result of my investigation, I've given this case a disposition of unknown other based on the Flight Radar 24 information. I identified the 2 aircraft in the area as reported by the witness. The other anomalies described by the witness cannot be explained by any known terrestrial object or astronomical object and does not appear at any type of aerial vehicle. This case is closed. Beverly Moore.
All right. Any questions or comments on that one? I think the idea that there are blue lights is kind of unique. You know, you don't see anything in the sky that's usually gives off a blue light. All right, going once, going twice. We're out of here. All right, this will be Marty's case. I'll play Greg's audio for this, and then if you have any questions, we can talk to Marty.
Case 142517, Marty Burrows. Synopsis: unable to conduct interview with witness due to lack of cooperation. However, a brief synopsis from her initial interview at the time of the event is that on her way home from work at approximately 16:30 hours on Wednesday, May 28, 2025, witness states that she saw what she at first thought was a large drone, dark and black in color. The black or dark tubular bars are piping around the sphere object traveling northwest to southeast just above the tree line. Initial statement by the witness revealed possibility of 21 feet in length. Witness detail: I observed that what I thought was a drone flying on my way home from work. It was very large and solid black. It was a sphere and was tubular steel around it, also black. It was not shiny and had no lights. It moved faster than a helicopter airplane and was completely out of sight within 1 minute. Witness interview: Marty was unable to contact the interview the witness due to lack of cooperation. Investigation conclusion and summary: Marty Burrows was initially assigned the case on Wednesday, the 28th of May, 2025. The nature of this case was that the witness, who wanted to remain anonymous, reported that on this date of Wednesday, May 28, 2025, at approximately 16:30 hours, she advised that she was returning home from work when she noticed just 21 to 100 feet above the tree line was a dark black sphere in nature and black tubular bars wrapped around the sphere. The witness advised the initial report taker that at first she thought it was a drone. The object was traveling northwest to southeast in a straight path, and that it was estimated to be at least 4 to 10 feet long in length. The witness had been contacted numerous times to sort out some details in hopes of giving this report some validity. However, no return phone call or email or text message were ever returned. Witness would not give her personal address or where she actually was in the car to establish the approximate location. Therefore, the latitude and longitude are invalid. In the initial report, she had advised the initial report taker that she witnessed the object for at least 59 minutes, but also stated that after watching the object for nearly 1 minute, the object moved off away faster than a helicopter or other known flying apparatuses. The investigator initiated an investigation with what information that was supplied, and again, there was no further contact. It just makes this case very difficult to follow up on. Due to lack of cooperation, a lot of details missing because of her failure to return several calls, this case has been closed due to insufficient data. Note, the witness did provide personal details sketch of the object. MUFON field investigator Marty Burrows.
All right, I think we got some diagrams. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, they can throw them out. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll hand it over to Marty if you want to add anything to the case.
Marty, what time of day was this?
And just remember, it'll be a delayed response, probably. He's still on here.
Okay, granted, this is a sketch. This is a sketch that was supplied by the witness. At first, this seemed to be a very interesting case, but without the details and some of the details that the witness was able to supply were kind of contradicting a lot of stuff that she was saying. Checking the flight radar, there were no other flights around, even though the city that, or the town that she said she was from, Sloan, Iowa, which is approximately maybe 20, 25 miles southeast of Sioux City. So that is the nearest airport, and also possibly the nearest military installation. But when it advised a military installation, that's all it gave. So I don't know if it was some type of secret squirrel stuff or what. But that's if it's. I guess I'm hoping maybe the witness will give us a call later on. In regards to, she also stated to the initial report taker that she had observed it for 59 minutes. That may be where maybe it's just like 59 seconds that came out to the report taker. So just a lot of stuff that's missing that I could have used in speaking with the witness. Also, there was really no location where the witness stated that she saw, in terms of was it in her town? Was it outside of her town of Sloan? Was it near Sioux City? That kind of doesn't give us any good information there where it actually occurred at. So I'm willing to take any questions you might have. I know I did notes here to prepare myself. So anything that you may have, any questions or any thoughts, my gosh, go ahead and give them.
I think we had one
What time of
question
day?
for the time of day on that.
Yes, it would have been 16:30 hours military time, which would be approximately 4:30 p.m. The skies were overcast, no precipitation. Winds were approximately 5 miles per hour coming from the north, and no precipitation before or after the fact.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Marty.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I'll switch it over to Fred here. Oh, there you go, Fred. Go. I don't have a lot of details. I just added it in.
Hey. Well, this is an ERT case that was presented to me by Dr. George Minich. This case is not an Iowa case, as you can tell by the map. It's down in Louisiana, down by New Orleans. And George was nice enough to say, hey, you're on this. So I picked it up and gave the witness a call. We had a 3-hour conversation, a wonderful conversation with this lovely lady. Her name is Jerry. I'll just say, I'm sure she don't mind if I use her first name, but she was quite the hoot. She was a lot of fun to talk to. She's about my age. She was in her 70s and things of that nature. This is a UFO sighting and a potential UFO abduction. There's 2 hours of missing time, and I will tell you about her experience. As you can tell, she and her husband were driving from Jacksonville, Florida. Her husband at the time, he's a former husband now, and the husband at the time, this is a historical case. Took place. They were driving back from Jacksonville, Florida, I should say. He was in the Navy, and they were driving back for Thanksgiving. And she lives over here in Prairieville. right here. This is Prairie View. This is where she grew up and lived, and her former husband right now is down here lives down here. There's Metairie, and down here. So they were driving along Interstate 10, and they got over to here and started coming down here, and right around this area, when she was coming across, she said the bypass, the elevated bypass over Lake Pontchartrain, I think is how it's pronounced. They saw a light, very bright light. And she describes it as the object as silver colored, very bright and shiny. It was shaped a lot like a water tower. It wasn't a tower, but shaped that way, she said. Ovalish, and seems to have a demarcation of some sort of halfway in the middle, and something around it where the lights were attached. She said the lights were like 6 feet apart, and they were always in the center of the part. I said, it seemed like they had like levers outside of it. He goes, yeah, and the lights shining down into down into the swamp below. She said the lights were longish silver things, almost like mid-century modern wall scones. The lights shine brightly and again shine deeply into the swamp. The thing about the sighting is that once again, no sound. She says, if you're in the Louisiana, there's swamp, there's all kind of creatures making sounds, frogs, and oh yeah, this is my frog shirt. This is not an alien shirt. I'm in I'm in denial of my alien abduction, and Roger gave me this shirt because he didn't have the balls to wear it. So I was going to wear the shirt. So Jerry and her husband, they saw the light. They got over here, kind of go over by the bypass, and then they stopped. I think it was right around this area here. They stopped, got out of the car, and I think they walked up an elevated area where they could see a little bit better. And this is 4:30 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. And they said they were watching it, and all of a sudden, like that, she said, they woke back up, so to speak, and the sun was coming up, and they looked at their watch. It's 6:30. So 2 hours, they were kind of aghosted that, like, what? And the funny thing, more so than that, she said, we're only 5 miles from the east side of New Orleans. And she said, there weren't any cars. We walked back to our car. The car, she didn't know if it was locked or unlocked, but she said, my purse was in there. Everything was in there. He says, if you know New Orleans, that car would have been stolen. Somebody would have got in there, stole it. But 2 hours, it just sat there. She was aghast again that the car was still there, where they had parked it. Anyway, so that is the contingent of what transpired with that. And they just got in, and then they drove home. And I kind of asked her, did she have any dreams or anything of that nature? And she said no. And then, so I got into the ERT portion of the case. And is there any other questions about sighting? Again, there was not a lot, just the lights going down in the 1973. This, again, the reason I brought this up is I kind of thought back and go, I'm thinking about, this guy, Calvin Parker, Pascagoula, the close encounter with Charles Hickson. This was a big case about 3 or 4 years ago, right? And I'm going, 1973. Well, this case is 1973. And she puts it down as November 21st of 1973. And Calvin Parker and Charles Hickson, their story was that of October 11th, 1973. So that was funny. And then I was talking to Margie Kay and Debbie Ziegemeyer, and Debbie goes, oh yeah, I've got this other underwater case. And she says, I think it was 1973 too. So here's this case. Here's these two fishermen guys. One was named Raymond and Ryan. And you can read that this was November 6th of 1973. So we've got about 6 week span of 3 cases now that have been alien abduction, alien sightings, and and again, the case of Calvin Parker and Charles Hickson, they were abducted, went on the craft, did a lot of various different things that happened there. So you can read about that. Again, they were floated out of the craft, three humanoid creatures. They were saw absolutely terrified, grabbed them and took them aboard the craft. So in this case, with Jerry and her husband, there was just missing time. I would have to say absolutely without equivocally that she was most likely abducted after listening and talking with her. So as I got into the ERT case, I said, Jerry, so what do you know about your young childhood? And I said, you had any dreams and any crazy experiences? He says, well, yeah. She said that she spoke with the little guys. I'm like, oh, the little guys. Yeah. Of course, that would be in most cases like your imaginary friends, as the parents grow up and say, oh, that's okay, you can talk to your imaginary friends, but hers was the little guys. And then I was talking to her, and then there was a case where she saw there was a shadow person in the room, and all the parents were kind of upset with that one, and that she was trying to tell the people about the shadow people, and then the little people. He said that her mother said, I said, did you ever have dreams of going out of body or something and things of that nature? And she goes, yeah, my aunts told me I was like laying in bed and I had my hands out and, like forward, like I'm flying, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, so now she has the little people and she has dreams where she says, I remember flying in the dreams, and talking to the little people, So my mind goes squirrel caging and I'm thinking about Mary Broadwell, she talks a lot about the children who are taken up under the craft, and they're educated and they talk more about higher physics and things of that nature. Then Jerry tells me, he goes, oh yeah, I went to a Catholic school and back in, we didn't have kindergarten, but we had first grade. We all started in first grade. And I was able to read and write in first grade, and she goes, oh, you're really smart. He goes, yeah. And the nuns were so surprised that I was able to read and write at this age that they wanted me to go to New Orleans to a new Catholic church over there because they had gifted classes, and the nuns went to the parents and say, we would really like Jerry to go to the school in New Orleans for the advanced students, and they said, yeah. There was quite a distance. I didn't want to spend the money and all the different other aspects of it. So therefore, I'm thinking that Jerry has been experiences of abductions, as a child, and she's talked about the little people. She has communications with them, and they talk back and forth and things of that nature. So then and then I said, what about other experiences? She says, oh yeah, I had this other experience. I says, I went to the post office one day and I walked in and did my business and I was walking out and then all of a sudden I blanked. I don't remember anything for the next 20 minutes. I'm like, what? He says, yeah, I found myself over in this other area, driving over here, and I just remember being in this other shopping area. I'm like, you lost 20 minutes of time. He goes, yeah. Well, the next day, then she said, oh yeah, the next day the gentleman comes up to me and thanked her for talking with her. And she goes, I don't know you, sir. He says, well, don't you remember that I was talking to you over the post office? I'm like, what? So I'm going, Jerry, I said, I kind of got a feeling that you're a trans medium, so it's something triggered her and she went into a state, and a lot of trans mediums don't remember what they talk about. They just blank out. And so she said, the guy told her that you told us all about our family, very detailed information and what's going to go on with the kids and so forth of that nature. Yes. What's a trans medium? A person who's able to kind of shift their consciousness out of their body and allow another person to speak through sometimes. So that's what a trans medium is. So I'm like, oh my God. I said, so for me, that just kind of reminded me that they needed to speak, that this ability of hers is able to speak in that way, And that kind of gave me insights why she doesn't remember for 20 minutes. She just has a blank out, And here's this gentleman validated that she saw him and talked with him and gave the detailed information about his family and so forth. But she doesn't know this guy from Adam, whatever. So Jerry, again, she said, oh yeah, well, I already knew when my mom and dad were going to die, you know, and I knew I had premonitions all the time. I would get premonitions. She said, well, that's just common sense. I just call it common sense. You know, she didn't say that I'm psychic or anything or premonitions, things of that nature. She just, your typical girl just said, this is just common sense for me. So that's just the way she put it. So I talked with Jerry and I said, oh, I guess you can't see the book, you know, unless you.
Be on the camera.
Oh, there's the camera. So I talked to Jerry and I said, you need to talk about Kim Carlsberg. And she said some abductions, you know, and things of that nature. And she goes on through about that. And then she has this is one of her books. Along with the other book is called Close Encounter with the Art, which is all about stories about other people, ET experiences and contact and things of that nature. So this picture right here is one that I really like, which deals with a woman who said she looked out over the balcony. This actually was Kim's picture, looking at the picture of the looking down below where all the women are having their babies taken from them. So they're the alien hybrid program, things of that nature. So I just brought this up. I didn't have to talk about this case at all since it was a case from Louisiana. And are there any other questions on this? I think I've got pretty much cleared everything about it, you know, what she was doing. She says, I just want to let you know that I'm glad to have someone to talk about this. It's been a long time, and I would like to know what happened to us. My former says he doesn't seem to want to talk about it or think about it and will not discuss it with me because, to me, except to admit that it happened. I may be able to get him to email you, and I can't make any promises. So here again, here's another one of those cases where the people who are involved in the cases don't want to talk about it. I've had several ERT cases where they said they want to talk about it, you know, and the time when I start calling them, they just ghost me. They quit talking to me because they just can't get over the idea that they've been abducted and so forth. They haven't dealt with it. So it's very fearful for a lot of people. So you got the Pascagoula and you got this one case here. So I found it very interesting that you have 3 cases here that dealt with a Pascagoula. And I think from east side of New Orleans to Pascagoula is about 80 miles. So that's not a real far distance between the two. And then my case, I just threw this one in. Okay, what's the comment?
I don't know. Where are we at? This one?
Oh, chat.
Yeah. Oh, he's just saying back. Okay.
Okay. Well, there's missing time and there's screen memories. In my case, just to validate Jerry's case of missing time, you know, when things happen you don't remember. I was with my friend Tom, who is a fraternity buddy of mine. We were in Ames, Iowa, and this is July of 1974, just a year difference, or another 6 months about. And I goes in Ames, Iowa, and we were fixing up a room, and my buddy Tom said, hey, there's a Rocky Mountain oyster feed up in Rhinebeck, Iowa, which is way over here. Rhinebeck, Iowa. And he said, hey, there's a street dance and a Rocky Mountain oyster feed. How'd you like to go? I was like, not really. You know, I said, here to work. But he said, well, just so happens I have a cousin in Rhinebeck. So I decided to go to Rhinebeck with him. So it's an hour and a half drive, as you can tell. An hour and a half drive to go to Rhinebeck. So we get there, we have our fun, chase the girls, drank a couple beers, and I went back home. And then I started driving home about midnight. midnight that things are shutting down, the streets are going down, so nothing going to happen. So I started taking off. So you can see the path where I probably most like had driven. About 10 minutes into the drive, I'm like going, I'm feeling really goofy. I'm feeling lost, and I start taking turns this way and that way. And the next thing I know, I'm driving up a paved road. Now I'm realizing it's dark. It's midnight. There's a storm out of Des Moines. I can see lightning out of Des Moines down below. I'm going north when I should be going southwest. I'm like, this is crazy. Why don't I got this feeling of being lost. I don't know why, but I got this feeling of being lost. So here again, I decided that I'm going to take the next road to the left, get me going west. I don't care what road it is. And then I'm in this area. I actually grew up in Marshalltown, which is right down here. So I know this area very well. I've got cousins live up here. I've driven trucks and things in this area. I know this area. I know all the little county roads. I know all the gravel roads. So in Iowa, about every mile, there's a gravel road or a paved road. So I didn't have any problem making a left-hand turn. So I made this left-hand turn. It was a gravel road, and I drove down the gravel road. And what happened was I saw this T intersection sign, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to crash and burn into the ditch and hit the sign and everything. So I hit the brakes, car slid, and it stopped, and there was two huge trees that had fallen across the road. These two cottonwood trees had fallen across the road, and I was within probably a foot of hitting the trees with my side of my car. And I asked Tom, said, did you see that T intersection sign I saw? He goes, no, I didn't. But he said, I'm glad you saw it. But I saw it. So there again, working with Jerry of Missing Time, that once I saw this image and the trees, I thought it was just kind of a divine intervention that I saw this T intersection and I didn't hit the trees, and I didn't get out of the car because I couldn't get out of the car because I couldn't even open up my door because the trees were right there. I wish I had the pictures. Should have put the pictures in there. And so I just T-boned the car back and forth enough to go off. Tom and I we never said another word for the rest of the time for another hour plus, going back to Ames. And when we got back to our fraternity house, I remember getting out of the car. That I don't even hardly remember any of the driving. I mean, that's another thing. I don't hardly remember driving anymore. And when I got in the parking lot, I was walking and I remember hearing the birds chirp. And the birds chirp around 4:30, 5 o'clock most of the time. I mean, they do that squawking. I mean, then they squawk like crazy right at that particular time. So it was years later where I thought, it's 4:30, around 4:30, 5 o'clock. So if I left at midnight, it only takes me an hour and a half to get home. That makes around 2 o'clock. So I've got 2 hours of missing time that I can't make way of. Well, what it ended up being is it was right around this area here that I had the event, and the trees themselves, that was the craft. The trees was the craft. That's what we call a screen memory, that this is what you see. The ETs and the aliens had this fully projected, I'm feeling funny, feeling strange, feeling lost, to the energy kind of coming in, and I felt this energy kind of come over right before seeing the T intersection sign. So the T intersection sign was again a projection into my mind saying, hey, you're going to have an accident, and then all of a sudden I hit the brakes, I slid. And on a gravel road, you're doing about 45, 55 miles an hour. Usually you hit a gravel road, you're usually going to slide to one side or the other, I did a perfect 90-degree turn. I was still on top of everything. Didn't slide in the ditch, no nothing. So that was another thing. Everything was controlled by the ETs, and that was my story. And 3 years later, I had a sighting of another UFO craft that was very vivid, very real. And I was probably the only one. I went in an altered state of sight when I saw the craft. So do I believe Jerry and her experience and her husband? Yes, I do. Absolutely. Absolutely. When you have an experience like this, there's no doubt about in my mind that she had an experience along with her early childhood of seeing the little guys and blinking out of 20 minutes and her thing. I think she's a natural transmedium psychic, and she just didn't use it to her abilities as a professional aspect within herself. So, lovely lady. We had a great time. We still talk right now, and she wants to hear more about her experience. I did show her. I did. I picked up looked on the there in Baton Rouge. She lives close to Baton Rouge, and there I picked up a hypnotherapist, so she can go there anytime she wants and do some hypnosis and maybe recover some memories of that missing time. So I've done that myself, but I'm not a very good hypnotic subject. I did get to the point where I felt and heard, "You're not to remember." Yeah, in my case, I did hypnosis, and I got to the point where the guy did induction for about 20, 25 minutes, and he's kind of like said, "I need to shut this thing down. I'm not getting anything." And he says, "Yeah, let's shut it down." Then all of a sudden, it comes to me because I was fighting it. And the words, "I'm not to remember," is what I was getting. So the ETs gave me a subconscious post-hypnotic suggestion of not to remember what transpired. So that might be in case of Jerry's too, and things of that nature. I have not. I haven't been up in that area, so that's kind of out of the way. But I have not. But I can kind of go through it myself, But I'm thinking of Jerry with. That's another thing I think I talked with her about. That. Oh well. Anyway. That's it, the case. That was a very good case. I enjoyed it tremendously. So, yeah. All right. All is good. Thanks. Questions? Oh, here's another closer view of Rhinebeck. Here's Rhinebeck, and I was down. You kind of came down here, and this is the paved road down here, and then it was right around this area here that I think I had the experience. That's another funny, Justin. I've talked to him numerous times as we got older over the years. He'd look at me, turn away, and walk away. Wouldn't want to talk about it. Continued not to talk about the experience at all. So that's what happens to a lot of people. It freaks them out. They don't want to talk about it. It didn't happen. I'm in denial. This is not an alien shirt. This is a frog shirt. This is my frog shirt. No, it's not aliens. Yeah, that's my case. Yeah.
What else we got there? All right, UFO, UAP news and highlights.
Whole UFO culture had been fueled intentionally by Pentagon disinformation that spanned decades. That's the question posed by a new Wall Street Journal story. It's reverberating throughout the UFO community tonight. The article is titled "The Pentagon Disinformation That Fueled America's UFO Mythology," and it alleges that the U.S. military knew that UFOs weren't from outer space with aliens on them, but instead spread those rumors for decades. Why? Because it helped the military hide top secret programs they were working on from the public and from America's adversaries. For example, the military was testing a top secret stealth fighter jet in Area 51 during the Cold War. And the Wall Street Journal claims that a colonel delivered photos of flying saucers to local businesses in the area to spread the rumor and stoke the flames that what was really going on at Area 51 was all about UFOs, all in an effort to cover up what was really happening. The Wall Street Journal also goes a step further and claims the Pentagon even lied to some of its own employees, sometimes in so-called hazing rituals. One military officer was reportedly told he would be, quote, jailed or executed if he told anyone about his briefing on a secret alien project. Both the briefing and the project were reportedly fake. UFO skeptics have suggested for years that the UFO question may tie back to Pentagon disinformation. This article raises the question of whether some of the biggest names to come forward in recent years, like Pentagon whistleblower David Grush, could have been fed some of that fake information about UFOs and top secret UFO programs. There are lots of questions here, so let's hear from people who know this subject better than most people do. Joining me now is Ryan Graves. He's the first active duty pilot to come forward publicly about UFO sightings. He's also the founder of Americans for Safe Space. He's also joining me as News Nation's special correspondent, Ryan, who has done a lot of reporting on this subject. Ryan, I'll start with you. You said on X this is a really one-sided piece in the Wall Street Journal. You said it does nothing to account for the near-daily reality of sightings that pilots, service members, and regular folks witness. But couldn't both be true? Couldn't you really be seeing something? And couldn't there also be this incredible, long-standing Pentagon disinformation campaign?
Well, I think that's exactly right. And that's the other side of the story. But you know, the base core presumption that this whole issue is caused from some in-briefings that were done in a hazing fashion in order to, well, I'm not really sure why, other than to potentially confuse secret technology. But that's not where this originates from. This originates from eyewitnesses that are spotting things, sometimes on the ground, often in the sky, that is very hard to explain. And whether that leads to, you know, an alien origin or something else, I don't frankly know. But the origin of this isn't a mythology that was spread across military individuals. Now, that might have been leveraged in order to take advantage of the confusion that was present from aviators and military folks that were witnessing these encounters. But no, I would disagree that they are the core progeny of this issue.
Yeah, you saw what you saw. You weren't fed some fake disinformation from somebody at the Pentagon. You saw what you saw.
Exactly, and there's thousands of instances of service members and regular people having similar experiences that can't be chalked up to simply disinformation coming from the Pentagon.
Okay.
But it does highlight a very important issue, I think, which is that if this is going on, this is basically a deception campaign against the American public, which I'm very confident that Congress is not read into.
All right, Ross, what do you make of all this, Ross?
Good evening, Elizabeth. I agree with Ryan. I think the hilarious thing about this, it's such a joke, this Wall Street Journal article, because it's effectively admitting what we've known for years, which is that there are people, gatekeepers to this secret about this legacy UAP program, who have been lying to and deceiving the American public for years. And now it's official from one of the most senior people who served as the person in charge of investigating UAPs. Put simply, his explanation makes no sense. The idea that this would just be part of a hazing ritual to try and encourage people to believe in aliens as a cover for some secret US stealth program, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. We've known for years that disinformation is being used and that UFOs are often used as cover, but that doesn't explain the first-hand witnesses who say they have seen craft and that they have direct knowledge of a UAP program.
Yeah, I guess Ryan, what I don't get is, I get that they want to keep their stealth fighter jet at Area 51 a secret. I'm not sure how spreading disinformation about UFOs accomplishes that by going to the local bars and spreading these pictures and rumors. How does that accomplish that?
I mean, perhaps that had some effect in the 50s or 60s, but I think in the modern era, they're just going to be drumming up more interest than fear. So no, I don't think it's a very effective tactic. And I frankly can't really accept that would be a widespread implementation technique that would be used. When a secret program such as a SAT program or a top secret program is exposed, there's very clear procedures of what's done as far as reading potential people in, and providing them a debrief of what they experienced so they know the procedures moving forward.
Yeah.
There's not an official policy to read people into a fake UAP program to confuse them.
Ross, the Wall Street Journal article alleges that some of the officers who fell victim to this hazing ritual, who were being fed fake information, were told that the program they were joining was called Yankee Blue, and that it was part of an effort to reverse engineer technology on the craft. I got to be honest, this sounds a lot like what David Grush told you and me in his interviews after he blew the whistle.
Look, it's quite clear, Elizabeth, that someone in the Pentagon has tailored what is quite clearly deliberate disinformation just to confuse the public. One of the other things they've done in this story that the Wall Street Journal aired without any kind of sensible investigation was claims that an electromagnetic pulse test weapon was used against an active thermonuclear missile site in 1967. And they do this to try and explain away what Bob Salas, a captain in the Air Force at the time, describes he saw, which was a missile being shut down by a UAP. And the idea that the US Air Force would sanction the use of an electromagnetic pulse to essentially test a weapon against an active thermonuclear missile, it's beyond belief. It's so ridiculous, it's absurd.
Yeah, Ryan, obviously Congress, there's a whole committee on UFOs that's been established because they're trying to investigate what the secrets are. Apparently, there will be another report coming from the Pentagon out about this disinformation campaign. This is really going to sound the alarm on that committee, what I would bet. You testified before it.
Well, I did not testify before the new task force that has been stood up, but I believe that this is going to provide them a lot of ammunition to look into some of these claims, which ideally will give them more opportunities to find people that they can speak to determine if this is true or not, and whether the American people have been deceived, even in a small part.
I don't know how you cure suspicions of deception with the revelation that there was a lot of deception. So we shall see, gentlemen. Thank you both so much, Ryan Graves, Russ Coulthard. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our...
All right, questions, comments on that one? I check the volume. Reporting what types of? I don't know. Ryan Graves, yeah. Reporting like disinformation or reporting like other UFO cases? Oh yeah, I think they're being more open on those, on UFO cases. Yeah, the disinformation thing. I mean, that just seems. I mean, that was people known about that for a long time, so I don't think it's like any news really.
Assessment of the UAP activity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just come out in different ways on BS.
Well, they might be the disinformation guys.
Whole UFO.
All right, I'll go to our next one.
Is the government finally coming clean about what it knows about UFOs? There's a new report by the Federal Aviation Administration that admits in 2023 an orange and white UFO crashed into an Air Force fighter jet during a routine training mission. And the UFO caused so much damage to the $60 million jet that it was forced to land. And that is not the only new evidence that they released. Trump's top science advisors recently admitted that the government may have anti-gravity technology. Look at this.
Our passenger planes are slower than they used to be. Our trains crawl compared to those in other parts of the world. Our cars do not fly. We are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space.
Manipulate time and space. Oh my gosh, I'm surprised that hasn't been a bigger story. So why has the Trump administration decided to disclose all of this now? I want to ask former Pentagon UFO whistleblower and investigator Lou Elizondo. Lou, it's nice to have you with us. First of all, the UFO that crashed into the fighter plane, what do we know about that?
Well, the problem is that we really don't know much. And therein lies the challenge, right? When you have an incident involving a $40 million combat aircraft, and only the details now are starting to be released through Freedom of Information Act and FAA, there's a problem. Now, we've been saying for the last 8 years since I've been out that there have been dozens upon dozens of these near-air collisions that have occurred with military and civilian and commercial pilots. This is not just happening with military aircraft. Now, this is the first time we heard of an actual mid-air collision, but some of these objects are coming so close to combat aircraft that they are literally splitting that combat formation right down the middle. So you can imagine how close combat aircraft fly when they're flying in formation. Now imagine a UAP coming in right between them. So this is nothing new. And I think, you mentioned earlier, why is the administration having the conversation now? And I think it's because this has really become the worst kept secret in American history. It's been 80 years of suppression and misinformation. And we're at the point now where I think the administration realizes that America can handle the truth.
Yeah, it does feel like more has been trickling out over the last few years. You've been working with the FBI on their investigations, their FBI investigations. What can you tell us about what they're finding? Is there anything new there?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. First of all, America is getting a heck of their money spent very well with the FBI. I'm absolutely amazed how well they're doing. In fact, they're running laps around the Department of Defense's Arrow program that was established specifically to look at UAP. And the FBI team, it's a small but scrappy team of folks, are really doing one heck of a job. And I think if you look at Luna's recent statement that she said when she was asked about the FBI meeting that we helped organize in the SCIF, she said it was a 10 out of 10, and that I guess Arrow now has some explaining to do. So the FBI is doing fantastic, but also we can't forget about Paul C. Gabbard and the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, and the entire intelligence community. There are pockets of excellence that are working very, very hard behind the scenes also to try to help boost the FBI's efforts. And I think we're finally getting a congealing, if you will, of the right people, the right resources, the right authorities to finally shed some light on this incredible mystery and give the information not only to Congress, but the American people.
We only have about a minute left, but the clip that we played in the intro, I just kind of find to be fascinating. The top White House science advisor saying that the U.S. has anti-gravity and something about time technology, almost like it almost just kind of slipped out. What are we to make of that?
Well, you're talking about the engineering of the space-time metric. And that is something that we looked at in ATIP, and before that, the programs before mine, and certainly afterwards. This is nothing new. What is new is that the government is starting to become increasingly more transparent on what it knows about these incredible enigmas that we call UAP.
Well, Lou Elizondo, we appreciate you coming on tonight. We appreciate you always fighting to find the truth and bring it to us. And I hope you have a nice weekend.
My sincere honor and privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching.
Any questions, comments on that one? Yeah, that was the first time I heard anything about the space-time stuff. If I can play that. Oh, on the quantum level? Well, it's the stuff like I know Sonny White's doing, his space warp stuff with the Kashmir effect, which is kind of linked into space warp, but it doesn't, I don't know if anything's coming out. He's getting funding, but I don't know if anything's coming out of that. But it basically, he was on Joe Rogan, I think, talking about it. So he's making kind of like quantum batteries that can, give you unlimited power, basically, based on different things. Sonny White. Yeah. Since we got our space warp project, we follow what he does on his stuff. He says he got space warp, but he doesn't seem like he has anything really. But just lately I heard him talking about his new project is on these batteries that he's making and then we know other people who are also working on these quantum batteries, and they're trying to, sell them at the same time. So there's a lot of stuff going on with those. The quantum batteries are unique in that they, like 0 point energy is that you don't put any energy in and you're getting energy out of it. So with, speculation in the quantum realm, they're pulling it from like another dimension or something. There's a special effect going on because it kind of breaks the, I think second law of thermodynamics. Yeah, that's the dream, is that if this is true and he's just producing energy out of nothing, that you can replace any kind of energy source, coal, oil, nuclear, and it's supposedly safe and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, people there's especially in the UFO realm, 0 point energy is like, I don't know, everybody says it's something they're working on, they got it, whatever, and never anything comes from it. So and then they're dead. Yeah. Same for like anybody, cancer research, or if they cure cancer, they got hit by a car. Whoops.
Is the government...
What you're about to hear is the voices of the pilot and air traffic controllers, and it's set to computer animation. Take a look.
LA Thunder, Troy 2-1.
Troy 2-1, go ahead.
It's not weird, but I just had something pass underneath my wing, maybe like a football-sized object right underneath our wing.
Troy 2-1, Roger. Do you think it was a drone, or?
I have no idea. I got my sensor operator looking for it on the camera right now. We'll see if we can find it. But it's like a dark gray cylindrical object, and it was probably the size of a football, and it passed maybe 10 feet under our right wing.
Troy 2-1, Roger. Thank you for the report. Keep me advised if you find anything else out.
Yeah, we'll do. We're looking for it now. And okay, correction. LA Center, Troy 2-1. We got something on air-to-air radar. We're trying to get visual on it.
Troy 2-1, Roger.
And LA Center 094, bearing from us for about 60 miles is where it is now.
Troy 2-1, say again.
094, bearing from us about 60 miles away is where we're picking it up now.
LA 15,
Troy 2-1, Roger, thank you.
All right, this guy was stopped at 14 for him because we were busy. There was some UFO reported here, but that's all taken care of now, so you don't have to worry about it unless you want to talk to Aaron. It was earlier, but it's gone.
I may not have to worry about it, but I am plenty worried about it. This is where I call in Ben Hansen to help me make heads or tails of this. Ben is a former FBI special agent and host of UFO Witness on Discovery Plus. He managed to secure that recording that you just heard because it was not made available to the public. Ben, what is your take?
This is a really interesting case. It was actually the air traffic controller who reported it to the National UFO Reporting Center, or NUFORC. So NUFORC is actually cited in the FAA regs as one of the places where pilots can go to make reports. So first, we want to thank the controller for reporting it, and also for the pilots. This was a Homeland Security flight, actually. So they were on, I don't want to say covert, but they were on a mission, probably doing drug interdiction or something like that. And they're flying along and they see this thing. So very experienced pilots. Now, this particular aircraft, too, is a Beechcraft 350C, which they've converted to include a very sensitive and complex radar array. So you see that dome on the top of it. It's actually there to track, drug traffickers and things like that. So when they call this thing in, this is about 2:30 in the afternoon. It's September 17th of last year. It's broad daylight. They got a good look at this thing, cylindrical, dark object that passes underneath their wings so close. So, I mean, obviously you can see there's big problems with that happening in controlled airspace like they were, and they weren't notified of any air traffic that was supposed to be in the area.
So the animation, by the way, it's so realistic, I was caught off guard. Was that sort of made with the help of those who witnessed it so that it's as accurate as it can be?
Well, in this case, my team has not spoken with the crew, as you can imagine, because the sensitivity of probably what they were doing on this mission, it wouldn't benefit them to come forward to talk to the public quite yet. We'd encourage it, yes, but this was our rendering of just based on the audio that we had. It's a guess, right? That object could have gone underneath from left to right, forward to back. We don't know, but we do know their description is pretty exact.
I'm also sort of gobsmacked by 20,000 feet because I don't think that ground-controlled, unmanned flights can operate at that altitude. Call me crazy. I think at one point they asked if it was a drone. What's the word on the possibility of some kind of a drone activity?
So it could be. It'd be very rare, but hobby drones can go up that high. Obviously, military can as well. This occurred near what we call military operations area, but it was not in that airspace. So anyone who was flying something to test a commercial type of drone or something would have had to call in. Now, the other thing that's very interesting about this is you hear them call out what they believe they're tracking this object about 60 miles away because they've got their own airborne radar. And the pilot calls back to air traffic control, says, we think we have it. Now, debatable whether their radar array could see something this small, 60 miles. But if true, within the 2 minutes when they called back, that would place this object going about Mach 2. Okay, from them to gain that much distance in that amount of time. So that would absolutely, in my opinion, eliminate any prosaic explanation of a drone or anything of that nature.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com.
Oh, pretty cool. That looks like a Tic Tac to me, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that could be a drone, but always gotta never know with drones.
Fastest thing was going, is it going that fast? Mach 2? I mean,
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. Thanks for the
everything else?
article.
Well, not your typical drone. You know, there might be different ones, rocket propelled or something. You know, but the other thing is like hobbyists when they do that kind of stuff. You know, they could take off, you know, the FFA, you know, recorder and everything, and just start flying stuff around. So. Well, that was just animation that they, yeah. So, yeah, like he said, you don't know if it comes from the front to the back or side to side. It could have been any of those, but just to have an animation, which I appreciate the animations. And I think, like, on some of our cases, maybe we should do more diagrams and stuff, like when the witness makes it something and then you can, like, diagram it.
I do a lot of that.
Yep.
What?
Where I picked it up from.
A while back, News Nation reported a claim from a Pentagon whistleblower that back during World War II, Pope Pius XII tipped off the U.S. government about the recovery of a partially intact UFO that Benito Mussolini's Italian government had discovered. So will the new Pope open the vault and share the secrets below the Vatican? I'm joined now by the host of UFO Witness on Discovery Plus, Ben Hansen. Ben, it is so crazy to think that there is a nexus between the Vatican and UFOs, but that's something that was actually discussed in testimony before Congress.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like straight out of a Dan Brown novel, you know, Da Vinci Code stuff.
Yeah.
Is the Catholic Church involved in a cover-up, something they don't want their membership or the world to know? You know, David Grush comes out and he talks about this 1933 case where supposedly the U.S. military was tipped off, like you said. They come in, take this UFO, this object, take possession of it at the end of World War II. And allegedly, the Catholic Church has not only records of that, but perhaps going back to centuries, documentation of UFOs or perhaps alien visitation.
So here's what, you know, if P then Q, I'm thinking, why would they keep everything a secret? Because if, you know, their followers, their congregants, they're beyond Catholics, if people start to realize that it's not an Adam and Eve story and it's not just Earth and there's a lot more to it, there goes religion.
I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head, you know, that theory, because the idea is the same, you know, concept perhaps that you talk about. Perhaps was Jesus married? Did he have children? The canonical, you know, doctrine of many religions is very kind of set in stone. And so to go back and kind of rewrite history and to say, okay, well, perhaps not only we're not the only ones in the universe, but what if they don't look like us? Right? You have, you know, scriptural reference to making God in man's image. So what if they don't really look like us? Would that mean that people lose their faith? Would that mean that they're going to kind of panic and give up on religion? And what about the authority of religion and membership? So all those questions is kind of what the theory is as to why perhaps they believe that either people are not ready for this or that they should indefinitely keep it covered up.
Or you have to rewrite a few books to incorporate the universe instead of just Earth, you know. But I am curious about the official position that the Catholic Church takes on extraterrestrial possibilities.
Well, it kind of depends on who you talk to, right? So the keeper of the records or the secretary to the prefect of the archives has come out and said that they absolutely do not, they don't know where Grush got this idea. They said they don't have any documentation of extraterrestrial life, and they're dissuading researchers from asking anymore. So there's kind of like a process, sort of like filing a Freedom of Information Act. You can petition the Vatican, see what they say. Will you let us into your archives? And they're saying, stop looking for it. We don't have any of that here. Now, I personally do know of people who have had access to archives. And I do know, according to them, that the Catholic Church has kept records of things such as demonic possession for centuries, very detailed records. But as to the UFO subject, that's more of a mystery. Like you had mentioned in the beginning, 50 miles of shelving, they probably don't even know what they have in there. And I highly doubt it's digitized.
That's my assumption. Yeah, I highly doubt it. Yeah, looking at the books, they're almost falling apart. I only have like 30 seconds left, but is there any hope that the new pontiff might be a little more transparent, might open up the archives and let people take a look-see?
Well, I would just say that if you look at what happened under Pope Francis, they did revise the guidelines as to what is considered a miracle, how to investigate or accept something as supernatural. And so the new Pope probably will follow those same guidelines. It makes you kind of wonder, why now? Right? Is there something about now that they think might be coming down the road as to why they have to stay ahead of it and kind of have a standard whereby they decide if something's authentic or not? So we'll see.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation.
That was in 1933 when they had the crash of a UFO. The Italians took it up and then picked up on it as well.
Oh, 1933?
Yes. Hearing more about the peak. Actually, before my time.
Before my time. Oh, 30. I think my grandma was born in 36, so it's before her time.
Called states like, hey, come pick this up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about it, other than we had 2 videos here on it. So what happened to it? So they had a crash incident in Italy in 1933, and then they wanted to give it to the U.S. and not Germany, right? And then
this is what I've read about.
Yeah, but like, what happened to the actual crash site? They just took it to the Vatican, or the U.S. never got it?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to know the ending of the story. Where'd the UFO end up?
Goes away. Well, apparently we picked it up.
Yeah, it's kind of funny they're talking about that. I guess they didn't really give any details on it. So so those files were like, they said that they picked it up and then they gave it to the U.S. And that's the whole story from there. Let's see what I get.
Come on, Monday.
Italian UFO 1933. Near Milan. Well, more than I know. That's an interesting case.
A while back,
All right, I think that's all he's got. Do you have anything, Dave? He's got you, Dave Kreider, on here. You have Dave? Oh, he went out. I don't know if you had anything he was going to share on there. Upcoming events we got next for Iowa is going to be July 12th, 2025, 10 to 12. And then for here, I guess I got the best cases from the last MUFON conference if we want to watch that. We watched the Antarctica one, but it had about an hour of Antarctica and nothing about UFOs. And the last 30 minutes was, oh, hey, we got a UFO. Oh, we don't have enough time to discuss all the UFO stuff going on. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We'll get some better ones. But yeah, these videos, that's from the symposium. You can get them on the MUFON, the MUFON TV. They have all the old stuff on there. But they did make these public when they were doing them, so I'm guessing they'll do the same this year. I'm not for sure, but it's usually just, I think they're gonna have a live stream and then they put the videos up on the website for a while. I also got the Havana Effect. Let's look at that one. Best of ERT. But these here are the cases of interest. Actually, let's open this in VLC, I think. That one down. I use the computer a lot.
A couple of quick announcements. They're only giving me 75 minutes. And we have at least two of our members here, Greg and Seth. Where are you at, you wild man? There he is. And by the way, if you have an interest in photo analysis, we're having the photo analysis class, and there's only X number of people that are going to be there and X number of tickets. I think it's 55. So make sure to see Seth about that. It's going to be in Cripple Creek. This means it appeared to be moving much slower to him than it actually was, and it was larger. Now, he assumed that it was moving 3 miles within 3 minutes, so assuming that was a straight across, not elevated in the sky to angular distance, that would have been 60 miles an hour. Well, it appears that it may have been even faster than that. The diffused illumination remained in the sky, and it kind of looked, to me, it looked as if it were how a plane would look with the illuminations.
We can get the full
degrees below the horizon. Not up. Clearly see a triangular shape with the lights proceeding south. Yes, it would have been going east, southeast. The object was there in the sky, and it was stationary for a while when this gentleman walked out, and he's seen what he says is a odd-shaped cloud sitting up there, and it had a rectangular shape, but it was bright, and it seemed to be lit from within. Out front of it, there was another light, roughly midpoint, and this again is his interpretation, his inference of what he's seeing. Now, about a minute later, he was able to clearly see a triangular shape with the lights at the corner and what appears to be a bit of an edge. By the way, altitude was approximately, say, somewhere's in the range of, what? Something's missing here. It was about 1,500 feet as far as the cloud ceiling, and the moon was not up, and that was a misinterpretation initially. When it came to analyzing this, it was not up, it was actually 14 degrees below the horizon. And the ceiling was elevation incorporated with the tabulation on temperature and dew point. Now, this is a summary of the witness statement and some of the key points that he marked off. Then my analysis to the side on those things that seem to be corresponding with it when I evaluated the video. It seemed to be moving faster than the clouds, and it had hovered and then took off. Seemed to be higher than the cloud ceiling, which was over 1,400 feet. And if that is correct, this means it appeared to be moving much slower to him than it actually was, and it was larger. Now, he assumed that it was moving 3 miles within 3 minutes, so assuming that was a straight across, not elevated in the sky to angular distance, that would have been 60 miles an hour. Well, it appears that it may have been even faster than that. The diffused illumination remained in the sky, and it kind of looked, to me, it looked as if it were how a plane would look with the illuminations of a plane behind a cloud. Now, the shape, then to look at it interpretively, it could be rectangular, triangular, square, or even a tetrahedron, okay, which would be a pyramid. And the edges appear to be present in a good number of the video clips on enhancement. Pointed out by the witness also was the enhancements, on the enhancements also, with a degree of saturation, was red and orange lights. So it doesn't seem to be the moon by any chance or any other form of conventional light. And these were the other key points the person brought up. It hovered, got that. Cast light, fuzzy edges. It glowed. It appeared transparent. Mist around it and shrouded. I do like that shrouded term, that's pretty good. And white, red, and orange lights, and it was either a rectangular or triangular form. In other words, if you were to draw the line or put a line between the dots. Here is the actual video to the left, enhanced, and black and white to the right. And I'm going to try to make it move along faster on the right, but just to get an idea of what it looked like. Are you able to see it, first of all? Okay, let's see if I could get this over here to move a little faster because they're going to gaff me in a few minutes. So let's take it moving it along. Are we seeing it moving along? And guess what? It maintains the integrity of a shape all the way out to the edge. And you see some interesting constellations. He says it's Jupiter, it could be Capella, I don't know. Either way, it's moving along and it's maintaining the shape. Now, as he had mentioned, there was color to this too. But first of all, let's address what appears to be first and foremost in the picture, and it really took people off, and that was what appears to be the moon. It isn't the moon, it's a light. It's a light post in front of the driveway to the left and then in front of the neighbor's yard. And you can see it illustrated here. And the object is, he's facing at this point, initially northwest, and the light is north, a little bit to the east. Now here is, remember he said a rectangle? When I walked up and I see this rectangle, well, I'll be doggone, what's there? On the enhancement, it is a rectangle. And he said there was a light in there, and that makes sense. Now it could be, we could look at it a couple different ways, and we're going to analyze that. It seems like there was also a series of other lights in there, not just those, and clearly in each and every one of the images, you can see at least two edges, and they seem to be pretty doggone like a 90-degree angle. Now, these were some of the clips laid out and enhanced the exact same way and placed in sequence. You can see it's maintaining the integrity of some sort of shape. Now, what I decided to do is present a couple of hypothetical shapes, because besides being square or rectangle, I also seen what appeared to be a face or faceting on the object, which means if we're talking about a tetrahedron, a pyramid, you have facets or face, correct? And you also have distinct, when you enhance it on and off throughout the whole series of clips, you could see what appears to be the edge of where these facets may be meeting at. Again, this is my hypothetical analysis. I'm speculating, and you can make your own decision up either way if you wish to, or just enjoy it. Now, those red, remember he said red and orange? Remember he mentioned red and orange? Well, I'll be doggone, he's right, there's this red and orange. In fact, there were three of them, very distinct in this image, and it was a number of images. But also you could see distinctly some bright characteristics in these four sections. Also in the very center, if it were to be the apex of a, let's say, a tetrahedron, that would be a pyramid, it could be the point of it, okay? So, and the funny thing is when I seen these three red lights there, the Tinley Park mass sighting, which took place the first one was August 21st, 2004. There was, when people were looking at it in one part of town, they said, no, Sam, it wasn't three individual lights in this massive triangle. It wasn't individual lights, it was three lights in each corner. I find this to be very interesting. It may have created a predisposed thought in my mind, but either way, it is there. Now, back to, are we talking about some sort of pareidolia effect? I love that word, isn't it good? Pareidolia effect. Well, we know the moon wasn't there. There were clouds there, but more so in the distance, in the east, and you could see where they were lit up by the city and also by the airport. In this area, there was broken sections of cloud. It wasn't a tremendous amount of clouds. So was it a pareidolia effect, or is it something else? I have a tendency to think we shouldn't immediately jump to a conclusion that it is something just so prosaic, though it may be that we may lend a little bit of latitude on this until we get more information. But on that, either way, here is my summation. Personal opinion based on the aforementioned. It's not a satellite, it's not the ISS. I'm not convinced that it was only a cloud illuminated by the moon. Not likely to be a constellation or a celestial body. Not likely to be a helicopter, a drone, balloons or blimps, or sky balloons or whatever, or sky lanterns. Thank you, Julie. She's always correcting me. Not identified as a commercial aircraft. We know that. And not sure if it is, what the heck did I put in there? Not if it can be, two eyes in that. If it can be accounted for by ground lights alone due to the independent motion. Did you see that? It was moving along. So either way, thank you very much for your time and have a great conference. Very good. Thank you. Sure thing. I don't have the mic. I get blamed for every damn thing.
Testing. All right. Okay, our first suite of cases. We're doing a little differently this year. Oh, by the way, this is an audience participation presentation. So I want to show of hands. How many think that what Sam presented today was a prosaic object, something that can be identified? 1. Okay, 2. All right, we can talk later. 3. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, a suite of cases. Personal anecdote first. I'm friends with a very good Israeli psychologist. She knows I'm into UFOs, and she said, Bob, I have a patient who told me this weird story. Paralyzed in her bed one night, she sees a hooded figure come in, and it begins drilling behind the left ear on the left side of her skull, some sort of operation. So I said I had never heard of that before. I know of bedroom encounters, but I had never seen a case where somebody was drilling into the back of somebody's head. Don't you know, a couple of months later, MUFON case 133326 in Brisbane, Australia. It was presented in 2023. Cases of interest this year are either cases that were submitted to us in 2023, or they occurred in 2023, or they're part of a larger pattern that includes cases from 2023. In this case, the woman finds herself paralyzed in bed. She's had multiple abductions since the 1970s. She begins to get telepathic communication that she hears beings talking, and they begin drilling into behind her left ear, and she believes that they put a yellow-colored stone there. However, later on, x-rays showed that there was nothing there. What's interesting here is that they used a tool. She receives a contactee type message that they're trying to help her speak out about her existence. So this was in Brisbane, Australia. She also felt vibrations. And the reason I put these little bullet points at the bottom is you're going to see them over and over and over again. MUFON case 134633 from Croftby, Australia. Nighttime, the date's approximate. Basically, we have the same thing, only this time it's a male witness. Again, multiple abductions from the age of 12. In this case, the entity was a tall white female, blonde hair, dressed in white, accompanied by alleged little grays. Person's paralyzed in bed. They hear telepathic communication. They hear crackling and static sounds at the base of their skull. The next day they fell for something, but couldn't find anything. Nothing showed up on the x-ray. But again, we have the same set of bullet points. In this case, at the end, the person believes that they were on a silver bench. So we have actually two cases where they may have been abducted, where they mentioned something similar. So these two cases are in Australia. So Roger Stankovic, who is the National Director of Australia, who spoke this morning on Havana Syndrome, I asked him about this, and he said, Bob, I don't know if you know about a case by Bill Chalker, a famous ufologist in Australia, that had a very similar case to the two I'm talking about. So we're talking about three cases in Australia. Hair of the Alien is by longtime Australian UFO researcher Bill Chalker, and Roger's going to come up and talk about some aspects of this case. There's one interesting point that's different from all the rest. Roger?
Thank you, Bob. Oh, I don't need that, I don't think. Oh, hang on. Can you just turn it on to the next slide?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay, great. Yes, so this was a case by Bill Chalker, and as Bob pointed out, he did a publication on it called Hair of the Alien, which was well received by everyone. And the incident occurred in Australia, Sydney, Australia, in July '88. And his name was Peter Curry, from a Lebanese background, and the case was investigated by Bud Hopkins and Ted Mack. He had multiple UFO experiences as a child, but he didn't know the objects that he was seeing were actual UFOs. He translated it in his head to a helicopter or a plane or whatever, but they were anomalous objects. One he described as being an egg-shaped type object. So Peter's incident cannot be explained in terms of sleep paralysis, because when this incident happened, he was fully awake and he never fell asleep. So the story goes that Peter was not your garden variety abductee. He was led a bit of a rough and tumble life, being Lebanese, and he was considered a bit of a tough guy or a bit of a thug. So not your average abductee. So he and his parents migrated to Australia at age of 7, and after living a dangerous lifestyle, he decided to go back into his living with his parents at age 24. One evening in July '88, he was watching TV with his father in the lounge room. He was watching TV in the lounge room with his father, and then his elder brother Sam was in his bedroom, and so Sam walked out of his bedroom and said, "Look, I want to sit down with Dad and watch TV. Would you mind going back into your bedroom?" So he did. Peter got up, went into his bedroom, lied down on the bed, and all of a sudden he felt something grab him by his ankles, and he felt totally paralysed. He saw entities in the room which were hooded, dark, not your typical type of entities. And as I said, he felt paralysed, and he could only just move his eyes, and he can observe what was going on. A little bit later, to his left, he saw 2 different entities, not the small dark ones. He saw the typical grey aliens that you see. Well, he described them as similar to the entities that you see on the cover of the book Communion by Whitley Strieber. One of them was female, one of them was male. And he felt terrified, stressed. He then observed one of the entities take out a needle-like object, which he described as a fibre optic type, like a needle, a crystalline needle, that's how he described it, and placed it to his head. And the needle had a light at the end of it. And he felt that it went into his head, and the tip of the needle went into his scalp. And then he completely blacked out. So after that, he came to, and then went into the lounge room and found his father and his brother completely out of it, as if they were semi-comatose. He tried to wake them up, and it took him quite some time to wake them up. And basically, when he woke them up, he said, how much time has passed by? And he thought it was 10 minutes, but it's actually 2 hours had passed by. So it's a bit of missing time there. And after that, after that, his fiancée noticed something, and he says a couple of days later, his fiancée noticed a lesion in his scalp which was donut-shaped and inflamed. And he also noticed that he had dried blood under his fingernails. In 1992, much later on, this so-called implant had dislodged from his scalp and fell onto the coffee table and bounced onto the coffee table into a shagpole carpet. He tried to find it but couldn't find it, and he vacuumed the carpet and looked at the contents and couldn't find it. But what's interesting about this particular incident is that he had an encounter with a blonde female extraterrestrial, which he had a relationship with her at the time, and she sat on him in the bed, and basically he found 2 blonde hairs around his foreskin, and he had them analysed by a molecular biologist, and there was an anomaly regarding the genotype of the DNA. They looked at the mitochondrial DNA in the actual hair and found out it was a very rare Asian type genotype, and it was blonde, and also at the root, the autosomal DNA genotype was actually of a different race as well. So not quite alien, but very anomalous in terms of 2 different genotypes, one in the mitochondrial DNA and one in the root of the hair. Thank you. That's it for that one.
Thank you, Roger. Also, again, like the first case that my friend, the Israeli psychologist, mentioned, this is the second hooded figure that we have. This is where it gets weird. Sydney, Crofty, and Brisbane, they're no more than 400 miles away from each other, and we're going to see this again. All right? They're all on the east coast of Australia on a 3,000-mile wide continent. They're not close in time, but they're very, very close in distance, and it suggests a mission of some sort. Winnipeg, Canada, July 14th, 1964. This is when Peter Horry, the Lebanese man, had his first encounter as a child. All right, in this case, person's paralyzed. I forget if it's female. They're being touched. I'm having a hard time to see here. Oh, okay, and the person was sleeping with their grandmother. I believe it was a teen female, yes. And there's nothing to suggest that something was implanted, but again, the entities who were tall were doing something on the left side of the female's body, head, behind the skull. And later on, when she became a woman, she developed cancer on the left side of her body. So we're starting to see a pattern here that harm is being done to these people, at least in the way that something's being inserted or possibly removed in all of these cases. Oklahoma City, June 10th, 1980. There's another new pattern here, all right? We see twice that husbands don't wake up next to their wives when it's a female, all right? There's communication again, there's surgery. This time it's 2 tall humanoid males, 1 female. Oh, height's not established. They weren't little grays though. Again, they speak English. In many of these cases, the person's hearing them talk telepathically, sometimes to them, sometimes to each other, and they're always speaking in the language of the person that they're doing whatever the surgery is to. They pulled out something out of her neck, and she asked what it was years later, and the doctor said, I don't know, I have never seen anything like it before. And she didn't tell them the story, and I assume the implant is lost. But it doesn't end here. Oklahoma City, Joplin, Missouri, June 21st, 2023. This case was reported, hold on. This case was reported, let's see. This case was reported 11 days after the other case was reported, okay, which is very interesting. They took place decades apart, but one happened 11 days before the second older report was reported to MUFON. So there seems to be a connection there. So again, in the last case, the entities put the woman on her stomach, and we had never seen that before. In this Joplin, Missouri case, the same thing happens. There's telepathic communication. It's a female, long fingers like the teen girl in bed with her grandmother on the left side of the neck. The bump disappears. This time it was an alien gray. There was paralysis. They spoke English. Here's where it gets weird. June 10th, 1980, Oklahoma City. June 21st, 2023. The reports were submitted 11 days apart, but they took place over decades at a maximum of 323 miles away from each other. The Australian ones covered a distance of about 400 miles, all right? This is really hard to explain as an accident. Okay, a couple of more cases. One person woke to a black shadow, needles being inserted in their neck. It hurt. 3 red needle marks on the neck, 4 black short creatures, maybe the hooded beings that we saw in the 2 other cases. They used tools again. Witness kept shouting, "Get off me." They exited through a locked door. They may have been grays. Person also saw a bright light. Person also smelled an odor. St. Lucie, Florida, March 10th, 2021. Again, this person had multiple encounters. They encountered 1 tall, 1 short, like we've seen before. Again, there's communication. This time, it may have been the right side of the neck based on the narrative, and they believe that an implant was removed. They suffered sleep paralysis. Again, it was a female. Again, they spoke English with a message for the person, for the good of mankind. That's 2 contactee type messages. Husband, again, didn't wake up. Santiago, Chile. This is the last case in this series. They were awakened by a loud sound. Something was placed on their neck. They felt something inserted. There was paralysis. They felt like they went through a dark tunnel and they woke up to a metal tray. The room was white. This may be the second abduction in this type of scenario. They were humanoids. Person felt a buzzing sensation, like in the other case where they felt the vibration, paralysis, possible abduction, gray alien. There was a sphere in the apartment, which usually precedes abductions a lot of times. They also had multiple encounters, and they had a vibration like a wasp in their head. Again, there's harm. So these are the patterns. Surgery, tools. They spoke English, tall and short entities and hooded entities, multiple encounters, possible abductions, telepathic communication, harm, paralysis, sounds and vibrations, enhanced abilities in at least one of them, one of the witnesses. Neck and skull mostly on the left side. Teens and young adults, x-rays show nothing. One possible implant retrieval. And the husbands did not wake up. So the conclusions, could all of these people be dreaming? All right, could it be some manifestation of the Jungian, Jungian collective unconscious? But there was surgery. So you could ask yourself, are there demons? Would demons use tools? I don't think so. Could it be aliens? Well, they're pretty barbaric, but if they look at us like ants, maybe they don't care. But usually you would think that an advanced civilization coming from another solar system could observe us and test us without us even knowing it. So could it possibly be the government? Because we see aspects of a mission. If not, could it be interdimensionals or time travelers, because they seem to use tools that might slightly be ahead of our own civilization, technology-wise. So maybe we're dealing with near-time, future time travelers, maybe interdimensionals. So my question to everybody, how many people think it might be paranormal demons? Aliens? The government? Interdimensionals? Wow, pretty even. Time travelers? Okay, it looks like interdimensionals in the government were first and second. All right, that concludes that.
Take the win, huh?
All right, standalone case number 2 will be presented.
Yeah, I'll probably end it there for now. We got like 5 minutes yet. Any questions, comments on that? So you got about 30 minutes into it.
Got a case where Utah, he said he had nose, project, he got the spinal fluid leakage. DNA.
Spinal fluid leakage?
That's a really strange one. That's the first time I've ever heard that.
Mm. Yeah, no, Mindy's got some good ones too. A lot of those with abduction cases and stuff where come back with things. But yeah, I'll wrap it up here. Let's see, I'll go back. So remember, Iowa's got their meeting July 12th, 2025, 10 to 12:15. Where do you have those at? Des Moines, Iowa, yeah. West Des Moines Library, for anybody interested in that. Our meeting, we won't be having a meeting next month because they have the MUFON Symposium next month, July 17 to July 20. It's going to be in the Northern Kentucky Convention Center. And our next meeting, if I stop this, August 16th, you got it. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you August 16th. There you go.